We're closing in, as we said, 100. When does that happen, sir?
Bitcoin is on the cusp of breaking above $100,000 per coin for the first time in history. Some people are asking the question, am I too late? Am I too late to buy? Or is this rally just getting started? Well, let's look at the on-chain data and see exactly where we are in the cycle. Seriously, watch today's whole video because there's one chart that truly does predict where crypto's headed next. And let's just remember the paradigm shift that just happened.
What I think listeners have to understand is when Donald Trump got elected, there was a paradigm change. And we have a hard time trading paradigm changes. What I mean by that is 4 years with a really harsh regulatory and political climate for people in this industry, and now wide open. The entire cabinet almost owns Bitcoin and is proponents of digital assets. I mean, Kennedy said his whole net worth is in Bitcoin. So the people around that table are very pro this space. They're pro innovation, they're pro digital assets, they're pro Bitcoin. And I think the rest of the world has to take notice, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it with buying from the Mideast.
And while Trump's pick for U.S. Treasury Secretary is a big Bitcoin believer, he actually just spoke at the Bitcoin conference.
If we do end up hearing that Senator Bill Hagerty ends up being a Treasury pick and he's called Bitcoin Bill, I mean, do you imagine that would be another catalyst, and could that push us beyond that 100,000?
Also, Trump's Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, huge Bitcoin accumulator, he's actively buying.
I have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay.
Okay, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars exposure to Bitcoin.
But in breaking news, as of this morning, SEC Chair Gary Gensler will step down. He is departing from the agency on January 20th, which is a huge weight lifted off the crypto industry. We can now have clear regulation and not just regulation by enforcement without knowing the rules. In a direct quote from Gary Gensler, he said, "The Securities and Exchange Commission today announced that its 33rd chair, Gary Gensler, will step down from the commission effective 12 p.m. January 20th, 2025. I thank President Biden for entrusting me with this incredible responsibility. So the Trump pump, and more importantly, a new regime has begun."
As a trader, though, if you're just trying to trade this, as you know so well, there are times when it blows through whatever you think the target is, and 100, you're saying, yeah, maybe it blows through that. There's also been these sort of remarkable retrenchments where, you know, it retraces 50%.
So what's next for Bitcoin? And the beauty of Bitcoin, because it's on 100% public blockchain, we have on-chain data that the elites, crypto elites, are starting to use. Most average people don't look at these charts. They really should if you're invested in Bitcoin. And the Puell multiple, first chart of 3, I really like because it gives us insight into what the Bitcoin miners are doing. And the Bitcoin miners, who have a long history with Bitcoin, do usually tend to have their finger on the pulse of where we are in the market.
What the Puell multiple does is it tracks the current miner income in US dollars, which is generally how all power and capex is covered by miners, and it compares it to the yearly average of that income.
So in layman's terms, are the Bitcoin miners holding because they think prices are going higher? Or are they selling because they think prices are sort of toppy? The Puell multiple is calculated by dividing the daily issuance value of Bitcoin that are mined into existence every day by the 365-day moving average of daily issuance value. This allows us to start to see the trends.
And what this provides is an indication of when we have a high degree of profitability relative to that yearly baseline, which can then create an incentive to sell, or in periods when we have very poor profitability, suggesting that there is some form of income stress and potential miner capitulation that can then change the overall hash share as it's distributed across the network.
And how I like to use this chart, and by the way, hit the like button if you appreciate this alpha, but I use this chart by looking for extremes. For example, if we're getting a high extreme, that means the miners are more incentivized to sell.
If we're looking at very high values of the Puell multiple, it's suggesting that the current daily income is much higher than their yearly average, and that very high profitability is creating an incentive to sell, which can then create an increase in the overall liquid supply as miners liquidate parts of their treasury in order to take advantage of that market strength.
Or of course, if we're seeing a very low value, that means the miners have very low incentive to sell.
And conversely, very low values of the Puell multiple suggest that the current daily income is substantially less than the yearly average, And that can generally suggest that there's a capitulation event in play. And at the end of large mining cycles, we can have a shift in the overall share of hash rate, where weaker miners have to drop off the network, turning off their machines. Stronger miners gain a larger share of the hash network, and therefore they can actually sell fewer coins in order to cover the same fiat expenses.
So what's next for Bitcoin? Where is the Puel multiple today? And we're really right in the middle of the cycle. Buying Bitcoin today, in terms of how profitable are the miners and are they incentivized to sell, buying Bitcoin at today's Puel multiple value is like buying Bitcoin right here. Look for that dot above. Like right here, look at that top dot, last cycle. Or like buying Bitcoin, if we're looking back in 2017, like right here in the 2017 bull run. So Bitcoin miners do sell some every day typically, but they also do hold a lot every day typically. And looking at the long history of how miners have reacted, we are nowhere close to the end of this Bitcoin bull run.
Normally you hit 100, you bounce off of it. I would not be surprised if, we go much higher. We're in price discovery. There's not a lot of supply. There had been a giant seller for the last week between 92, 93, and 94, probably $14-15 billion of Bitcoin sold there. I know because we saw the buying, not us personally, but the U.S. market.
Now, of course, it's not just about one metric, one chart. It's about reading multiple charts, pulling from multiple data sources, so I can make the best decision for me as a crypto investor. I really want to recommend you subscribe to Altcoin Daily because we drop one video per day, keeping you informed. It's really just one video per day, and over time, you can start to become an expert in this stuff. So the next chart I want to show you is the Bitcoin MV/RV Z-score. It sounds complicated, just stay with me. And actually, to get to this, we first have to understand Bitcoin realized price. Because we know Bitcoin's regular price is just whatever the coin market cap says, the regular price, now just under 100K. But Bitcoin's realized price, slightly different. Many people say it may be a more accurate way to value the network. And Bitcoin's realized price is the average price of the Bitcoin supply valued at the day each coin last transacted on chain. So what this assumes is once you buy your Bitcoin, you put it in storage, you hold, and the only next reason you would move that Bitcoin again, an on-chain transaction, is if you want to sell. Why move your Bitcoin unless you want to buy or sell? So this is the average of that realized price of the last time all Bitcoin in supply did that. Today's average price is closer to 35, probably pushing $45,000 today. To me, this says if the worst should happen and the bear market started today, we typically won't go under or won't spend a lot of time under that realized price. And actually what I think we'll see, because I don't think we're going into a bear market, but I think we'll see in the bull markets that realized price gets brought up to a more fair value. But anyway, understanding realized price, let's move on to a really interesting chart, Bitcoin MV/RV Z-score. The MV/RV Z-score evaluates whether BTC is overvalued or undervalued relative to its fair value. So this uniquely compares the regular market value of Bitcoin to the realized value, meaning this is comparing the two, charting it over time, and it's been a pretty clear indicator of when Bitcoin's near a top.
So the way to think about this, and for any of you who've been kind of absorbing our video content or our webinars in the past, you'll know that I love to bring in the layer of human psychology. So if the MV/RV ratio is basically charting out current price, which is market value, spot price, market cap, divided by realized price, which we often consider to be the acquisition price. So the current value divided by the acquisition value, that will give you a profit multiple. When it's above 1, it's going to give you we are in profit. When it's below 1, it's going to give you we are in loss on average. And the psychological concept here is that at some point in time, everybody sees a green enough number in their portfolio that they feel motivated to sell. And likewise, at the very, very bottom of bear markets, there's only so much pain that the human can take. And when we look at our financial portfolio and it's just red, 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 at some point in time, that elicits the same response of people flushing out their coins. So that's why it tends to work on these extremes. We're looking at points in time when people become exceedingly likely to distribute their coins, and that generally triggers some kind of cycle change.
And what does this chart tell us today? Again, we're right in the middle of the cycle. The time to buy was back in 2022, end of 2022, clear buy zone. By the way, Altcoin Daily was sharing that with you. Whales quietly buying Bitcoin, Ethereum to explode after merge in September. Ethereum's price was around $1,200 back then. Again, you can go back on some of our old videos 2 years ago. You are being lied to about cryptocurrency in 2022.
The Bitcoin's realized price is at what level each coin actually traded hands. But just know, many people use realized price as sort of a more accurate way to determine the value of the underlying Bitcoin network.
We were sharing with you why this does have value when the elites back then, even Larry Fink of BlackRock, was saying, nah, Bitcoin's nothing. But essentially what this is telling me is we're not close to a bottom. We're not close to a top. But let's start to check back in on all these metrics every 4-6 weeks and keep tabs on these so subscribers of this channel are the most prepared. And for all you trading on Margex who opened up their long positions, when we talked about it in my video from 2 days ago, BlackRock to send Bitcoin over 100K in the next 7 days, you're looking good. Anybody who set their longs clearly in profit, just remember, market can literally do anything, so set the stop losses, take some profit. But many traders are making money in this bull run. I'll put some links down below, check it out. And like always, see you tomorrow.